I'm really happy to be here, to be in the place where it all started. It was literally upstairs that we actually created Patient Innovation, this now global platform, non-profit, to facilitate the sharing of solutions developed by patients and caregivers, first for themselves and then to help others. It all started here. In the beginning, we had a few. Now we have about 850. 850 innovations that have been medically validated. In fact, we have 1,600, but some of those still wait for medical validation. Now, when we had 300, we were really surprised because we were named the largest deal flow of medtech in Europe. We almost tripled that number, and this all started because of our research. And I wanted to tell you a bit about that because, you know, we care about the role of users in the development of new products and services. So that's what I do for my research. And at some point, we start bumping into interesting fellows, like this man. He has been here several times. Dale Goldsworthy, in 2002, went to see his doctor, and he had really bad news. The doctor told him, look, I'm afraid you are going to die. Obviously, we are all going to die, but he was going to die within about 24 months because of his aorta. The problem here is that he's a Marfan syndrome patient, he's a very big man, and the aorta is not strong enough for the flow of blood that goes through it. So the doctor explained, look, what's going to happen is that you will have some sort of rupture in your aorta, and this will kill you because you'll be doing other things. And by the way, if you want to decrease the chances of dying like that, I recommend that you actually sit down in a chair or lay down in bed for the rest of your life. Well, which, by the way, is not going to be long anyway. So, you see, this wasn't very cool. And, you know, Dale went on thinking about it and thinking, this was sort of ridiculous. So, you know, if at home we have a pipe that is going to have a rupture, we don't sit down in a chair or lay down in bed, right? He knew that. So, he started thinking of a solution for this problem. And he came up with the aortic support that you see over there. You know, a couple of months later, he walked back into the doctor's office and told him, look, you told him that I'm going to die, and that's not very nice, but if you actually help me putting this thing around my aorta, maybe I will survive. And I know, by the way, that you are going to tell me that this is very dangerous and this could kill me. But guess what? You told me I'm going to die anyway. So, making a long story short, he convinced the doctor in London to put this aortic support around his aorta. And we are all happy he did it because he saved his life, and he actually saved the life of about 160 people that have received the same aortic support. He calls me every time he sells another 10. He called me recently saying, we are up at 160. Very cool, right? And you know, in fact, I could tell you about 1,600 stories like those. I will not, but I will share a few more of people that actually have been at some point here at Católica. You know, Amit Gopher got paralyzed in a car accident. Actually, after the accident, he could not move anything below the neck. Amit Gopher was the person that developed the most sophisticated exoskeleton that you can find out there in the market. The device that you see at the left. It's an expensive toy. It costs $85,000, but actually, you know, puts a tetraplegic back in his or her feet. Very cool. He also developed many other things like the other device that you see at the right. So people were actually developing all sorts of devices and sometimes different types of services, like Hans. Hans is from Denmark and is not totally blind, but he suffers from tunnel vision. That's a problem, right? He discovered that his phone could help him. Because now with the phone, we can easily make a video chat with someone that actually can see. If I am blind, I will not see something in front of me, but with my phone I can establish a connection, and maybe someone on the other line, on the other side of the line will be able to help. There you go. He created this community, and in a short period of time, this community has now 1.5 million people that actually have helped over 91,000 blind people in more than 150 countries and more than 180 different languages. So that's a bit unexpected because, again, the innovation is coming from an unusual suspect, the patient itself, right? Not long ago, we had Gerard here with us. Gerard has a different story. is actually a refugee. He's now in Burkina Faso. And he almost died with malaria. As you know, malaria kills about 400,000 people per year. Yeah, there's no mistake here. It's 400,000 people per year. He lost 3 brothers to malaria. He almost died. And he knows the reason for that. The reason is that there is this mosquito that actually goes around and infects people. And you need to keep the mosquito away because, if you don't do that, the chances that you'll have, bad luck with that malaria incident is really high. So, after losing 3 brothers, he decided to do something about it. And what he realized was that, in fact, in Burkina Faso, there were some local plants that have this scent, this perfume, which is actually good for people and bad for the mosquito. It's a repellent for the mosquito. Good news, it's very easy to find. So what he started doing was to actually smash soap together with these plants in a way that now when people wash their hands, they will keep this perfume for up to 6 hours, and this will be enough to keep the mosquito away. There we go. We are talking about a solution that later on received a little bit of money from the Gates Foundation and is now believed that could save 100,000 lives until the end of 2020. That's remarkable because guess what? A big bar of soap that can be sliced can be used for a family for several months, and it costs about 50 cents. So a very simple and affordable solution. You see, so we were really intrigued because we were finding all these solutions coming from the patients on one side and also from the caregivers. And by caregivers, I'm talking about informal caregivers. The father that takes care of the daughter, or the daughter that takes care of the mother, something like that. For instance, we met at some point Keely's father. Keely, this lovely girl, had to do chemotherapy, intravenous chemotherapy, which means she would spend a couple of hours per day attached to that support that you see over there. That's not nice. Of course, the worst thing is the chemotherapy and the cancer, but the treatment itself is not nice. So her father decided that he could do something about it. And what he did was actually to adapt that support system to a backpack in a way that now Keely can walk around. Of course, she cannot go and jump in the park, but she can do a lot of things she couldn't do before while she does the treatment. Or Debbie. Debbie, the other woman that you see in the picture, the one in blue, in fact, is the inventor of at least 16 amazing solutions for her son, and her son has cerebral palsy. One of the problems of these kids is that when they are supposed to stand up and start walking, they simply cannot do that. So among many other things, she developed what you see over there, the UPSI, this device that actually these kids can wear and the adults can help them walk. You see, as I said, we were trying to understand the role of people in this development process. And we keep saying something which is, the need is the mother of inventions. There we go. If that is true, it makes a lot of sense that you go to situations of high need and see if there's something there, right? So guess what? If that's true, in fact, it makes sense to go to chronic diseases that live with you for the rest of your life. Fatal diseases that can kill you, right? These people have a strong motivation to do something about it. Well, the first thing they do is actually to go around and search for solutions. Most of the times they can't find them. Well, a smaller percentage of those that cannot find will start thinking about solutions. Well, an even smaller percentage will actually come up with a prototype. An even smaller percentage will try to diffuse. Most people don't diffuse. So what we have seen is that there are different ways by which people diffuse. Starting from free sharing, people just share with others. Some others actually develop their own companies, and in many cases they actually try to use existing companies to spread their products or services. Let me show you some examples. Let me start with this example of a guy that we know very well as well, Gisbert from the Netherlands, who got paralyzed in a car accident and came up with this set of solutions. In fact, he has plenty that he shares freely online.
Hello, my name is Gisbert Nijhuis. I live in Amsterdam and I've been paralyzed for over 20 years now. I can only move my head and a bit of my shoulder. And in these 20 years I've been searching for a lot of solutions to everyday problems, like for example the cushion I'm sitting on to prevent pressure wounds, this photo camera that I can shoot with by moving my arm a little bit. In my bed I have a head controlled computer that I control with a dot on my head. And latest is the back support, which has exactly the shape of my back. And most things I find I place on my website, lazyworks.com, and also on Patient Innovation.
So, I mean, some people decide to freely share. Others know that sharing for free has several complications. Actually, it's very hard to reach people if you do that, if you have a device. So what they did was to try to become entrepreneurs themselves. We have in our data set many what we call patient entrepreneurs, like Michael Sears. Let me tell you briefly about Michael Sears. He's a Crohn's disease patient. He had cancer and he had 25 surgeries. At the end of those, in fact, he ended up ileostomized, and that's not fun. That means that they removed part of the intestines, and now they opened a hole around here, and all the stuff that flows through the intestines now flows into a bag. Well, not a comfortable bag, in particular because these guys, and there are 5 million guys like that out there, in fact, have no way of knowing when the bag gets full. And often, that's embarrassing. So what he decided to do was some sort of sensor that now is attached to the bag and will communicate and tell him with his iPhone or his iPad how the bag is. And he was at some point here with us. In fact, he would look from time to time to the phone, and he was not just checking for messages, he was checking the bag. Let me tell you more about that.
Hi, my name is Michael Sears, I'm 46 and I'm from London, England. My innovation is a connected medical device called the Ostomy Alert. It is a sensor device that sits on the outside of a medical bag, like a stoma bag, and sends a signal to your mobile phone or your tablet, enabling the patients to alert themselves as their bag is filling and allowing the doctors to deliver real-time, accurate information back to the patients.
So you see, some of these guys become entrepreneurs. Well, others, in fact, try to do it by themselves, and later on are very lucky in some cases because some companies decide to take that product to market. Catherine Payton, for instance, from the US, at some point developed diabetes type 1. And she had to take many injections per day. What's the problem here? Well, she hated needles. So that wasn't cool. And for that reason, she started working on something that now she calls the iPort, the injection port that allows us to get the insulin without actually having the needle touching her skin. She actually tried to develop a company to commercialize that. She shared this with us in our site. And at some point, Medtronic, a big medtech company, looked at that and said, this is really cool. Let's try to commercialize that. They made a deal, and now this is sold to millions of people. Now, you see, what we are getting in our website is a little bit of all these things. And this is something that we started, as I mentioned, as a research project. We just wanted to see if patients would be willing to share what they did. And not just we found that actually people are willing to share, often for free, but actually people often offer to collaborate. Let me briefly tell you, for instance, about Ivan Owen. Ivan is a puppeteer from Seattle. It has nothing to do with healthcare. He's not even a patient. Well, he likes 3D printing. And at the time, he was doing a lot of puppets for theater. Like he did some of those that you see over there. And what he did that was really cool was the one at right corner that in fact moves. And at some point, he did a video of that and put it on YouTube with no particular objective, as we actually often post stuff online, right? He didn't expect anything to happen. But in fact, he was intrigued because a few minutes later, he got a message from the other guy that you see in the slide, Richard Van Aas. And Richard was telling him, look, I'm from South Africa. I'm a carpenter. I used to have 5 fingers. Sadly, the machine just chopped 3 of them. Guess what? I don't have money for one of those sophisticated prosthetics, but I could very well have one of the things that you actually just posted. Can you help me getting something probably better for me because it moves? So, Ivan didn't know exactly what to say, so decided to say yes, which was very nice because as soon as he did that, he also found our site and started communicating with people on patientinnovation.com. And, at some point met the mother of Nuno. And that's how it all started. Nuno is a kid from Portugal that was born without the arm. So, of course, he doesn't have the hand as well. So, when they saw this solution, what they did was to come to us and ask for a 3D printing prosthetic. And we looked at them and said, we actually have some 3D printing capabilities around here, but we have no clue how to do that. And Carla immediately said, no problem. I have everything that I need because via Patient Innovation, I got the code. What we need now is to put everything together and just print prosthetics. So, you see, Ivan estimates that we probably have helped over 1,200 people in different countries around the world to get hands, to get arms. This actually is a very basic one because this case is a bit complicated. We have better designs for hands. But think about what technology can do today. That is totally unexpected. I would lie to you if I was basically suggesting that we anticipated that something like this could happen. I would be lying to you if I anticipated that, in fact, the media would be talking about this project. I mean, major outlets from across the world, and we don't know them all, but from the US to Pakistan to Paraguay to Denmark, right? We didn't expect that at some point the Science Museum would give us a call to say something like this: I would like to do an exhibition, or they would like, this is the Science Museum in London, they wanted to do an exhibition about us. Literally us and our innovations. And they did it, and it went very well, the first one in London, and then they did 4 copies that are still traveling around Europe. Actually, we have visited around 29 cities already. Well, above all, I didn't expect that we would start collecting a lot of awards, which was very cool because we need, of course, to spread the word. People need to hear about us. Things like Non-Profit Startup of the Year, which was interesting because when, in fact, we got this award, now I think I can share this, we were not even a startup. So we couldn't really get the award, so we decided to become a startup. That's what we did. Or Mr. Ban Ki-moon, at some point before leaving the office, actually decided that he wanted to recognize some projects that are contributing to the UN Sustainable Development Goals. They also recognize us. They called us to New York. The United Nations just last week told us that we are now, well, first we are winners of what they call the World Summit Award for Portugal, which is already very cool, but we are finalists for the final, for the global final that will be decided in November. Wish us luck. So you see, what we have been doing was a bit unexpected. It wasn't really planned in the beginning. Now we are sort of putting the pieces together. And what we are trying to do now is, apart from facilitating the sharing of the solutions online, which is what we do, if you guys have an idea, more than an idea, if you have a solution, eventually you can submit it to the site. If you do that, what happens is that our medical team will get an email with a description, with pictures. We probably ask for videos. And, if it's approved, then it's shared. It's a bit more complicated than this, but not much more complicated than this. Now, what we are trying to do is to actually help these patients to further develop what they did and eventually to bring this to market in different ways, by starting their own companies or by eventually bringing this to the supply chains of existing companies. Who are we? Well, a relatively small team, but we are actually very proud of our small team. Some of the people are actually here in this institution. Others are in a medical school, not far from here. And then we have an advisory board that has several Nobel laureates, as Lyndon mentioned. Yes, how did we get Nobel laureates? It was a bit by chance, I should say. It was in a talk like this in which at the end there was a guy that came to us and told us, look, you did a very cool presentation, but in fact it also became clear that you don't know much about medicine. And he was right, because it's not my background for sure. And he told us, but I would be more than happy to help. And I thought to myself, maybe this guy is unemployed and he's looking for a job. Of course, I'm very happy I didn't open my mouth, but he insisted. I could even eventually invite some of my friends And I was like, oh gosh, now you want me to give jobs to his friends as well. So we decided not to really say much, and probably noticed, and they told us, look, your mind is somewhere else, maybe you don't have time now. But by the way, if you later you decide that I could help, give me a call, and we could do something about it. And by the way, my name is Richard Roberts, and I got the Nobel Prize for Medicine. And when I was telling you about my friends, I was thinking about other Nobel laureates that eventually could join the board. Let me know. Of course, we paid attention to the conversation, and we are sharing this story because he has been a very important supporter of this project. He believes in social media to help these people. He's not just a brilliant scientist that got the Nobel Prize. He's actually the father of a kid that had a car accident and became tetraplegic. That's why I think he was more moved by our project. So, if you think this is an idea worth spreading, please help us spread it. It's a non-profit. You can talk about it to your friends. Eventually, in the end, someone will benefit from it. Thank you.